So, any common issues that come up since with all your experience and with your your career and helping others in sales?
Yeah, absolutely. And I want to quote my friend Mark Hunter, a great sales coach in this. He says so eloquently, the way you open a deal is the way you close a deal. So a lot of times we struggle to close deals because we as salespeople, and I know as small business owners, a lot of times we're wearing the hat ourselves. We like to fantasize about stuff that's in our pipeline it's actually going to close. But the real litmus test is, do you have a clear understanding of the outcomes that that prospect wants, their goals, their challenges, and have you been able to directly connect your recommendation to those outcomes?
Thriving in Tandem. It's a podcast for you, the married entrepreneur that wants to win in business and marriage at the same time.
Welcome to Thriving in Tandem.
All right, so here we are with Darrell Amy. Darrell, welcome to the show.
It's great to be here. This is going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, it's kind of funny, since we got introduced to each other, and then you had me on a call with a couple of other your friends, Dr. Joey and Dave. We have interviewed them before we even got to interview you.
Wow. Well, I will say I'm in great company.
So then, thank you for those introductions, and it's really great to know you and get to know you. So I'm really looking forward to this conversation.
Me as well.
So sales is obviously probably, if it's not the number one topic on business owners' minds, it's at least one of the top two or three, right? So closing more deals, closing more sales is always something I think everybody wants. But I think what some get stuck on are probably just some common mistakes that happen that prevent business or the salespeople from closing more deals than they could. So any common issues that come up since with all your experience and with your career and helping others in sales?
Yeah, absolutely. And I want to quote my friend Mark Hunter, a great sales coach in this. He says so eloquently, the way you open a deal is the way you close a deal. So a lot of times we struggle to close deals because we as salespeople, and I know as small business owners, a lot of times we're wearing the hat ourselves. We like to fantasize about stuff that's in our pipeline it's actually going to close. But the real litmus test is, do you have a clear understanding of the outcomes that that prospect wants, their goals, their challenges, and have you been able to directly connect your recommendation to those outcomes? And what I've discovered is when salespeople and when entrepreneurs struggle to close business, if you start to autopsy or go back and look at the deals themselves, you start to recognize they didn't really either A, have a clear understanding of what that client wanted to accomplish, what outcomes in revenue growth engine. I say buyers don't buy products and services. They buy the outcomes those products and services deliver. So a lot of times you go back and look at deals that you have lost. And the first question is, did I have a clear understanding of what that client, the outcomes that they wanted? Either a goal, a top level goal they had, or a challenge. And then if you can say yes to that, well, if you can say no to that, now you know why you lost the deal. You never really were in it in the first place. So the remedy to that is to make sure the way you open a sale is the way you close a sale, is to go back sales process, to spend most of the time learning about the prospect, their dreams, their goals, their aspirations, the outcomes they want to achieve, and then base your recommendation on that. Another way, by the way, just as a footnote to go, are you doing that well or not? When you send across a recommendation, a proposal, or a statement of work, the very first thing that should be on it is, here are, from our discussion, here are the outcomes that I heard from you that you want to achieve. That should be at the beginning of the proposal, because that's what you're delivering. You're not actually delivering your product. Your product's just a way for them to get to those outcomes. So autopsy it. Did I understand their outcomes? And then second, have I made a bridge? Have I connected those outcomes with my product and service? And the second thing that should be in your recommendation is not just the specifications of your products or the description of the service you're going to deliver, but in detail, some detail about, okay, this is how this will help you achieve these outcomes. And when you do that, your close rate goes up. But a lot of that goes back to how do we open the sale? And if you open the sale correctly, then it's a whole lot easier to close it.
Yeah. So what about if you're selling a product, tangible product? I can see with the service, you're kind of customize some things, but you got a product, it is what it is, right? The features and benefits or features don't change. So got an example of how that works and something like that, whether it's a car or, a computer or a phone?
Yeah, great question. So I started my career 3 decades ago selling copy machines. So can you imagine
you really,
What are
anything?
they?
Yeah. Oh, I mean, seriously. So you're out there, you're selling a machine that you back then, for the younger listeners, back then you used to walk up to a machine and put paper in it and spit out copies. And now we, print stuff out, or really we just read stuff on our iPads. But back then, this was like the biggest, most important piece of equipment in an office in a lot of ways, because so many business processes depended on it.
Yeah.
And there was a ton of competition.
Yeah.
So, you would have competitors all over the place, and they all had great machines backed by great service. So if you went into a deal and you said, hey, we've got great technology and outstanding service, the buyer would go, that's what the last 8 guys that came in here said, right? So instead, what we'd realize is we weren't actually selling office equipment to streamline their business processes, because back in the day, paper documents are the vehicles by which information flows through business processes. So when I would go in, I would say, yeah, of course I sell copiers, but really what we specialize in is helping businesses streamline their processes to run more efficiently, to increase their profitability, and to reduce their risk. I'm curious, what do you do around here? And we'd start listening to their business processes and where the problems were. And then we'd come back with a recommendation, which coincidentally would include copy machines. But we would demonstrate how those systems would be implemented in such a way, and their people would be trained in such a way that that device could actually help them achieve the outcomes which they wanted: more efficient operations, more profitability, less risk. So there was, I learned very early on in my career in a highly commoditized space that if you played the game of our products are better and our services are better, you're gonna not win a whole lot of deals, and the ones you win, you'll have no profit margin. But you can differentiate just about anything when you understand that they're not buying the product or service, they're buying the outcome it delivers.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a good example. Yeah, copiers, boy, that was hard.
Back in the day, right? And fax machines. You remember that?
Ooh.
Boy, that was fun.
Hey, do you know those are still those are still in existence?
There's a handful
in law
of them.
firms. Law firms.
That's right.
Doctors' offices.
And some doctors' offices.
Yep, absolutely.
Yep. That's funny. Boy, I wonder if they can still get parts.
But back
just get a
then,
new
it was
one.
the same thing. That doctor's office, when you walk into your doctor's office, they didn't want to buy a fax machine. What they wanted to do is they want to have a efficient, secure way to communicate with the pharmacy or whatever that is. So they weren't buying a fax machine. They were buying an efficient, secure way to communicate with the pharmacy. And this goes for whatever you're selling, any product or any service. You got to remember, at the end of the day, in my world, nobody buys a revenue growth engine plan. What they buy is the ability to hit their goals faster, and to accelerate their growth, so that, there was, I love telling the story of Theodore Levitt. He was the father of modern marketing. He was a Harvard Business School professor, and he used to walk into class on day one, Marketing 101, and he would walk in and he would be holding up an electric drill bit, what you put in your drill, of Home Depot, Lowe's, Ace Hardware, insert hardware store of choice here. Ever went to the store to buy a drill bit? What did they go to buy? The hole. Right. And I don't want a drill bit. I don't even want an electric drill. I want a hole. And Donald Miller would go a step further and say, well, actually, you wanted the hole because we all descended from cavemen, and we're afraid if we're not in community, we'll get eaten by a tiger. So I want to hang the plaque on the wall to look good to my friends. So I didn't go to buy the drill bit. I went to avoid being eaten by a tiger. Now, the person that understands that wins the deal, right? And you got to remember, people aren't buying your product or service. They're buying the outcome it enables. And so I love that story because as much as I build stuff on the weekends, I actually do like electric drills, but I'm in the minority on that. People really just want a hole. And if you can understand what your buyers want, or they want to hang a plaque on the wall, whatever that is, if you understand what your buyers want, the outcomes they want, it doesn't matter if you sell something as mundane or boring as a copy machine or tax and accounting services or HVAC, whatever that is that you sell. When you understand the outcomes people want, then everything changes from a sales and marketing standpoint as well.
Yeah. And when you're talking about outcomes, selling outcomes, not just the features of the product, that does speak to trying to avoid the whole pricing conversation. I mean, I know a lot of people, whenever the most common pushback I remember in sales was always price. And I remember it always, come back to our upper management and say, oh, you got to be able to lower the price or be able to offer discount. And it would always say, it's always, majority of the time it's a smokescreen. Right. And
Right.
so and we get caught up on price, and that's where a lot of business owners struggle with that, right? We get that pressure to be price competitive. But I think it speaks to what you're talking about is more selling the outcomes. When you focus on the right things, price isn't so much of an issue. Can you speak to that?
I would say absolutely. And so you've got to realize that there's three types of buyers. And I'm going to quote my friend Don Barden, who'd be so fun for you to have on this show. He wrote a book called The Perfect Plan. He said there's three types of buyers. There's CEOs, middle managers, and the rest of us. And for our friends selling into the B2B business to business space. So CEO, the rest of us, we care about price, and Walmart nailed it. Their slogan, always low price, always level. What you start to realize is their twist on it is they're actually looking for return on investment. And if you understand this, it can reshape the way you think about how you present your proposals. So return, what am I going to get? What outcomes am I going to get on investment? What's my investment? Now you have to understand the investment is way more than just whatever price is at the bottom line of your proposal. And I don't like the word price on a proposal, budget, but I put budget. But the investment is more than what you're asking. The investment is their time, their organizational focus, the risk that it won't work. So let's say your proposal is for $10,000 for whatever you're selling. When that executive is looking at that through the lens of ROI, they go, well, yes, there's 10,000, and then it's going to delay us rolling something out by 6 months, and it's going to require a lot of time from this person, and this person. So they're adding all this up in their head, whether or not they're telling you. So what I like to do is I like to bring that out into the conversation, and sometimes even written into the recommendation itself. What's it going to take to roll this out? Let's talk about the entire cost, because my cost is just a little bit. Now, the benefit of that, and then the benefits on the other end are usually way bigger. If they're not way bigger than the cost, then why would they do that? But if I start to look at my expense plus their employee expense plus the, whatever other expenses they have and add that up, now my expense is just a portion of that. So there's less focus on $10,000. Well, right. I could do that for 9,000. Right. There's less focus on that because now we're looking at the bigger picture. So I say when you make sure you're selling to the right person. If you're selling to the price people, good luck, right? You're going to always be in a price battle. But if you're selling to the executive business owner, someone who's thinking about return on investment, clearly demonstrate the return. Those are the outcomes you can deliver. And over a time horizon, those should be pretty big compared to that $10,000. Then have a clear discussion about the investment, your $10,000 price or budget plus, whatever it's going to take. And then let's have a real world discussion. And all of a sudden now what happens, and this is something really, really critical to notice here. Most of the time, salespeople are on the other side of the table from the prospect. You're like adversarial. But as soon as you start to talk about the implementation plan, and I think the last page of a proposal should never be the budget. The last page should be the implementation plan, around to the same side of the conference table or desk with the buyer. And we're thinking together about what it would take to roll this out from a time and budget standpoint and how it would best make sense. So there's a mindset shift here from just going, no, this is not price, this is return on investment. And the return is bigger and the investment's bigger as well, in terms of it's not just my little slice of the budget, but all the other things that they're going to take putting that in. And if you have an honest conversation like that, that's where, now you're really selling. The other person's just quoting prices, and quite frankly, an internet site can do that just as well as anybody. So if you really want to sell, understand their outcomes, and then understand what the true return is on their true investment.
Mm-hmm. That's good. That's good. So talk to us about the difference between marketing and sales, because I know a lot of people kind of think of it interchangeably. I mean, I just know, like, I remember I was helping, kind of mentoring this young man down in Mexico, and he has a marketing agency, and helping one of his clients, and the clients are upset because, the Instagram posts aren't leading to sales and all that stuff. And we were actually we did some research just on their own business. And, one of the parts of the research we were doing was that researching their own clients, his clients' own clients, and they sold insurance, and saw that there's a lot of the clients did not know there's other insurance option packages available beyond just the typical life insurance that they purchased. And they were open to hearing more. They just didn't know. And so it was like, wait a second, and they did not want to, pick up the phone and call. They're expecting the Instagram post to do all the work.
That's a bit of a fantasy land. So I think marketing and sales, are number one, are part of the same, two sides of the same coin. They should be aiming at the same thing. And when I wrote Revenue Growth Engine, the subtitle was how to align sales and marketing to accelerate growth. And so what I discovered was it's not about marketing, it's not about sales, it's about driving revenue and driving revenue into ideal clients. So marketing and sales should be working together. The thing about marketing is in essence, in most companies, in a support role, from the standpoint of it is, communicating a one-to-many message, whether that's across, and there's so many different channels of communication, whether that's across social media, online advertising, email, direct mail, TV advertising, YouTube advertising. There's so many ways to communicate. The job of marketing is to spread the word and reinforce the value proposition that the salesperson is going to deliver one-to-one. And so this is, I think, marketing's one-to-many, sales is one-to-one. And now, what ends up happening is this. I think a lot of companies, and I want to speak specifically here to entrepreneurs that are working in a local area. Some people are trying to sell to the entire world, but a lot of entrepreneurs have a company in a city that, has a geography in which they're selling. And even if you're bigger than that, here's what I want to say. Let's start here. Not all clients or prospects are created equally. Vilfredo Pareto, the famous Italian economist, taught us the 80-20 rule. And I double dog dare everyone listening to look at your client list, pick out the top 20%, and add up how much revenue is coming in from that top 20% of clients. I was laughing. I was working with a common area maintenance company that does pressure washing and sidewalks. They resurface parking lots and all of that, large banks, and they also do it for some small businesses. When we went in and we looked at we're doing a revenue growth plan for them. We looked at the top 20% of their clients. The owner came back, great guy, wonderful. He goes, Darrell, it's not the 80-20 rule. It's the 81-20 rule. 81% of our revenues come from 20% of our clients. So immediately go, well, wait a second. Why don't we focus all of our limited marketing and sales efforts on getting more of those 20% clients? And sure enough, we added up and we coach you how to do this in the book, Revenue Growth Engine, how to add up the 10-year potential of your ideal clients. In his case, it was over 25 times the revenue of his average client. So at that point, you have this aha moment and go, okay, not all clients are created equal. If we really want to grow this company, let's get more ideal clients. Well, if I know who my ideal clients are, I can figure out who my ideal prospects are. For this company, it just happened to be companies with 20 or more physical locations in the retail, commercial banking, and gas station space. And for them, now they knew what they needed to hit their 3-year and 10-year revenue goals that they had set as a company. They know how many clients they need. And so now, and here's where I'm going with this, now marketing, instead of trying to market to the entire world, the cosmos of the internet, is saying, I'm going to market to these specific target accounts that meet this criteria. It focuses everything in. Same with sales. Go to the sales team and go, you guys can call on whoever you want to, but these target clients, they're going to hear from us on this regular basis. And so what we need to do ultimately, it's a long answer to a short question, is we need to get marketing and sales focused on the same ideal prospects. And when we do, now our efforts show a lot more fruit, and we can work in concert. And we give you a playbook to do that in the last half of Revenue Growth Engine.
So, the majority of the listeners are either solopreneurs or maybe they have a small team, but regardless, the business owner tends to be the chief salesperson. And a lot of business owners also don't like the sales process. I don't like sales, right? Hence why sometimes I struggle. So help them, maybe reframe how they view sales. And I think you're starting to do a good job of kind of reframing it. But how do you help the average business owner that doesn't like sales become a better salesperson or become more comfortable with it?
It's a great question. And I'm in a similar position. I work with companies that have sales teams. I actually co-host the Selling from the Heart podcast, which, by the way, if you are wearing the sales hat and want some advice on how to sell, go, grab the Selling from the Heart podcast. We're having this conversation every week, and actually just recorded an episode earlier this afternoon. And we ask every guest, what does it mean to sell from the heart? And our guest today said something so simple and so profound. Selling from the heart means helping people get what they want. And I think if you look at sales from the standpoint of helping people get what they want, then it's so much easier to get to work with that type of mindset rather than I got to hit a number or I got to, do all of this. Look, I run a business and actually a visionary in 2 different businesses. I sell all the time. I prospect. I'm prospecting today, right? This is as I go through my day, I've got a goal in faith-driven mid-sized companies. By the way, if you're listening in and want to get on my prospect list, that would help me out, make my day a lot easier. But it's just a mindset. Like, this is what I've got to accomplish today in between working with clients, having great conversations on podcasts and all of that. Like, this is a non-negotiable. My podcast co-host, Larry Levine, author of Selling from the Heart, says prospecting is a non-negotiable thing for salespeople and entrepreneurs. It's like if you want to be physically fit, you have to do something. You have to go to the gym. You have to take a walk. You have to eat healthy. This is the going to the gym side of being an entrepreneur, is prospecting. And if you go at it with the mindset of, these are my ideal clients and I want to help them. And when I look at this list of business owners, CEOs of faith-driven companies that have 5 to 30 million in revenue, that's my ideal client profile. I can't wait to talk to these people because I want to help them accelerate their growth because I know they're going to do good things with it. So I would say to my entrepreneur friends, get clear on who your ideal client is and start to look at selling as helping. And I know you started your business with a passion to help people. For me, I started with business with a passion to help people grow their business so they can make an impact. Whatever you do, whether you help people make sure their homes are comfortable with HVAC, or whether you, whatever you do, look at it through the lens of helping, and then you can sell from your heart. And when you're selling from your heart, then things are a whole lot more fun.
Yeah, for sure. Because, you're basically, your product or service is providing a solution to somebody's problem, right? So you are helping. And
absolutely.
When you think,
oh, sorry. And I was going to say, it's part of your purpose too, is to help people and have solutions for them, help them get to the next level and grow their business.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think this is, I say every morning when I'm planning my day, I write out my purpose because I'm a beloved son. I live to bring the kingdom with joy by loving generously as I catalyze growth in kingdom-led companies. So that's, that's where selling begins right there, is with that purpose, because that purpose isn't executed unless I reach out and touch someone, and have a conversation. And marketing's great. Yeah, do your Instagram posts, do all that. But at some point that has to bridge into a conversation. And the point of this is, if you understand your purpose, and I love that perspective, then the conversations are fun. I connected and started bridging a conversation with Benjamin, who has an incredible biotech company headquartered in Nashville, this morning. That wouldn't have happened had I not prospected. And now I'm excited to be able to go have a meeting with him. Well, once again, none of that happens unless I take an active approach every day to, hitting my target. My target is 22 companies a week, CEOs that I reach out to. Whatever your target needs to be to hit your number, that's up to you. But when I commit to that, then good things start happening. No prospecting, empty funnel, life is really, really miserable.
Yeah.
That happens. We all know that,
For
right?
sure. For sure. So that kind of segues into setting realistic revenue goals, right? You got to have something to shoot for. So speak to us about setting realistic revenue goals. I mean, how do you know when it's realistic or not?
Yeah. Well, so here's how you know, because most goals I find when I go into companies, they use one of two methods. Let's see. Here we go. Okay. The ruler method, right? You put a ruler. This is what we did this year, and this year, and then we think we can grow, this much this year. Well, I mean, that's a pretty conservative way to grow. And the problem is, if you have a bad year, as some companies did in the last couple of years, now the ruler's pointed in the wrong direction. So that's not a good way. The other way to do it is that is way more common than we want to admit, is the spaghetti on the wall approach. So, you did spaghetti on the wall goals when you get about halfway through the year and you're not hitting the goal. And you either say to yourself, or your team says, well, that wasn't a realistic goal in the first place. And then you just move on. That's happened. If everyone listening in is honest, we've all been there. Here's what I say: set aggressive but realistic goals. And here's how you do it. You look at the two drivers of revenue for your company. One is, how many customers do we have? And number two is, what's our revenue per customer? The only two ways to grow a company is to get more customers and to sell more to your current customers, more stuff. In Revenue Growth Engine, get more customers. We call that net new business. In Revenue Growth Engine, we call selling more to your current customers cross-selling. So here's what I do is I look and I would say, okay, if I've got 100 customers right now, just use some round numbers, when I'm planning, I'll go, how many, with the right sales and marketing processes, with the right prospecting activity, how many more customers could I add this year? 100 customers now. I think I could add 24 customers, 25. Let's round it up. Okay. Now, let's say my revenue per customer is 10. Now I go, with the right processes in place to manage those clients and communicate with them, could I get that number up to 12,000? Okay. Now we've got somewhere. You multiply those two numbers together and you just got your goal. And now you don't have any excuse, because you're aiming at two things. I need to get 24, 25 new customers this year, and I need to figure out how to raise my revenue per customer from 10,000 to 12,000. That's a realistic goal. Now, when you add it up, it's going to seem aggressive, right? Because let's see, 100 times 10,000, that's a $1 million company, right? And 120 times 12 times 12, that's a $1.4 million company. That company, you have grown 40% just doing that. And, so whatever those numbers are for you. And once again, if you want some help with this, I've got a tool on the website. If you text the word revenue to 21, that's revenue to 21,000, it'll give you the goal setting worksheet that you can use to test that out for yourself. And what you'll find is it's really exciting when you begin to understand that you can drive good goals by understanding number of clients and revenue per client, and then setting a goal in each one of those areas, multiply them together, and you'll go, there's my goal. let's do it.
Yeah. All right. Sounds easy.
Yes, it does.
So let's see, a lot of this is outlined in your book, Revenue Growth Engine.
It sure is. And if you go to the website, revenuegrowthengine.com, or text the word revenue to 21,000, we actually have the audiobook on there, and you can listen to the audiobook for free if you want. Of course, Revenue Growth Engine is available where all fine books are sold. So welcome you to grab a copy. And that was the heart, Robert. My real heart is to help purpose-driven businesses thrive. And, when you walk in a business that's struggling to get revenue, or you talk to an entrepreneur that's struggling, it's really tough. It's a bummer. It just is. You walk in a business that has the right engine in place, and they're consistently bringing in new business and getting more from their current clients. When that flywheel is going, that's when business becomes fun, and you can feel the energy. And my heart is especially for the type of people that listen to this podcast that really want to make an impact in the world, that you're able to have an engine that helps you create the resources that you need to be able to make that impact, be able to not only support your family, but also to be able to have the resources to support all kinds of great things out there. And to me, that's the kingdom. And I think we've got a real opportunity to be strategic in how we think about growing our businesses so we can make an impact. Yeah.
That's just a great way to close up, Darrell. Thank you so much for coming on and sharing your heart and sharing your expertise in growing sales, because, we all want that and all need that. So we've got, revenuegrowthengine.com on here. We got your email address on there, damy@revenuegrowthengine.com. Of course, the podcast, Selling from the Heart, the book with the same name, Revenue Growth Engine, How to Align Your Marketing and Sales to Accelerate Growth. Any other way they should stay in contact you, or how you want them to follow you?
Well, the great thing is when your last name's Amy, there's not that many of you on LinkedIn. So I'd love the opportunity to connect with any of your audience members on LinkedIn. Just look for me, Darrell Amy, and I'll look forward to connecting with you. And I love just the interaction of like-hearted business professionals that's happening right now. And I just want to say a huge thank you for putting this show together, because what you're doing is really, really amazing.
Thanks.
Yes, thank you.
Well, it was great to have you on. And for you still listening, go ahead and share this to another entrepreneur that I know will want to hear this, because, who doesn't want more sales, right?
And to grow your business, exactly.
So go ahead and share this, leave a review. We really appreciate that. And until next week, God bless. Thank you for listening to the Thriving in Tandem podcast. Please visit our website, marriedentrepreneur.co, for a variety of free resources to help your marriage and business succeed.
And feel free to leave us a review and share this episode with another married entrepreneur. That would mean so much to us.
See you next week.